On the same day as the mass murder at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, a Bartlesville high school student was arrested for planning a Columbine-style shooting at his school. Police and school officials believe they could have had a massacre if it had not been for a teen who came forward with information about the alleged plot. The Sandy Hook tragedy inspired the creation of a commission that is examining school safety in Oklahoma.
The morning that 20 children and 6 adults were shot and killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, Bartlesville police arrested 17-year-old Sammy Chavez. We may never know the motive of the Connecticut shooter, but we now know some startling details of what Chavez was doing and thinking before being arrested on charges of a conspiracy to carry out a mass shooting at Bartlesville High School.
I think he feels as though he's been bullied to some degree, whether it has to do with, I think he used the term geeks and nerds and that sort of thing, being picked on, and that he felt as though apparently the only solution to that was to injure people or kill people to try and make a point that they should not be bullied.
Washington County District Attorney Kevin Buchanan questioned 4 witnesses during the preliminary hearing for Chavez on Thursday. Fellow student Tyler White testified he heard Chavez seriously talking to some other teens about his mass murder plot while they were all sitting at a school lunch table in early December. White says the plot involved getting the student body in the auditorium, placing locks and pipe bombs on the doors to keep police from stopping the shooting spree. White testified another student said he knew of someone who could help Chavez carry out the plan. White also testified he saw Chavez on a website about the 1999 Colorado Columbine High School massacre and on another website that explained how to make pipe bombs. Chavez's mother listened to the testimony.
Okay, if you're going to prosecute because he went on a website, you're going to have to arrest almost the whole town of Bartlesville.
Bartlesville police officer Jake Moran testified that when he arrested Chavez, he found a journal in the suspect's pocket. According to Moran, Chavez wrote that thoughts of hurting and killing are comforting and that it calms me down. He also wrote, these thoughts are becoming increasingly real. And he wrote, those who deserve to die will be killed. Those that don't know our cause will be forced to witness it.
Calm him down as in reference to the shooting and murdering. Those are in his head. They were not acted upon. They were just words. Some
people may look at that and say, well, these were only words. Well, we're not going to take, those kinds of words are not going to be taken lightly. Our legislature has made it a crime to plan or devise a scheme like this.
Jessie Chavez says a psychiatrist encouraged her son to keep the journal. Mental health and school violence have been at the center of conversation at the Oklahoma Commission on School Security. Bartlesville Public School Superintendent Dr. Gary Quinn is one of many professionals from education, law enforcement, and mental health serving on the commission. They are working on recommendations to improve security at schools across the state, proposals which could be introduced as legislation.
I think it's important, and we've all already agreed that we were going to have action and not reaction to the tragedy that took place in Newtown.
House Speaker T.W. Shannon and Senate President Brian Bigman asked Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb to chair the commission.
By the grace of God, we've not experienced large-scale school violence in Oklahoma. And our desire, you can't stop all evil, but our desire with the commission is to mitigate and to lessen any potential for large-scale school violence in the future.
So far, members of the commission have come up with 20 findings about school violence in Oklahoma. Among them, 3% of students did not go to school because they felt they would be unsafe at school or on their way to or from school. 6% had been injured with a weapon, such as a gun, knife, or club, on school property. 17% were bullied on school property. 7.5% of Oklahoma high school students brought weapons to school in the past month. The commission also found Oklahoma meets the criteria to be considered an honor state, a term developed by social scientists. Lamb explains the meaning.
You take great pride in your reputation. You will defend it at all costs, almost. honor states are a little riskier in behavior, meaning the citizens of honor states. It's not just in the United States, but it's really throughout the world. His study has been.
Research done by Dr. Ryan Brown, a University of Oklahoma associate professor of social psychology, shows that 75% of 108 shootings have occurred in honor states. 85% of all rampage shootings happen in honor states. With those findings in mind, members of the commission will continue to hammer out their recommendations for new laws to improve school safety.
Our second recommendation was to fund school resource officers around the state.
There is nothing more effective than a police car in front of a school building, and there's nothing more effective than a uniformed officer armed inside a building.
Lieutenant Governor Lamb warns of creating laws that cannot be funded.
Well, if we said every school has to have a school resource officer, that's an unfunded mandate. And some of this, or a large part of this, should be local control and what local school boards decide what they want to do with school security, how they want to fund school security.
Armed school resource officers are on the campuses of many middle and high schools in urban Oklahoma, but scarce resources prevent schools from having officers at all schools. For instance, private funds pay for an armed security guard at Tulsa's Elliott Elementary. In the wake of the Sandy Hook shootings, a parent offered to pay the guard's salary until the end of the school year. The offer was approved by school administration.
The vast majority of parents at Elliott have been for it. Now, there are a few that are not, and we've listened to their concerns, but the vast majority are for it, and we're deciding it is a good move to err on the side of safety.
It's kind of nice to have at least somebody checking the doors other than the principal who's trying to manage a school.
I feel really much more safe to have a guard. I've also seen her walking in the perimeter of the school too, which before, during and after recess, which makes me feel much better.
Bartlesville had to drop the armed school resource officer at the high school 10 years ago because of a downturn in the economy. But today, a Bartlesville police officer is assigned to the high school. Because of a better economy, an officer started working there after winter break. State Representative Mark McCullough is working on a bill to allow teachers to go through reserve officer training so they can be certified and armed at school.
I know this is not without controversy for a lot of reasons, but when you look at the fact that there is nothing in place now, and what if you don't have the money to pay for armed security or a resource officer? That's probably the situation with a large number of our schools, particularly our rural and our smaller schools.
Bartlesville School Superintendent Dr. Gary Quinn says other school leaders he has talked to share his opinion on McCullough's proposed legislation.
And I don't want them to have to be considered their protectors. I don't think they should have to be armed and ready to take on an armed intruder into a building. I think there should be other people that's trained to do that instead of teachers.
Quinn says the mass murder plan devised by Sammy Chavez was only interrupted because a student came forward and reported what he knew about the plot to the assistant principal.
Did we come close to a catastrophe?
We think he was very serious. Like I said, I think we've got some heroes here that because they did the right thing, we were able to avert a tragedy.
The Oklahoma Commission on School Security will have another meeting next week and then present their recommendations the following week.